Every day, we all engage in economic activities. However, for most people, economics seems to be something very abstract, dry, and hard to understand. But today, I will share with you a book about economics that is incredibly lively and easy to understand, titled How the Economy Grows and Crashes by Peter D. Schiff and Andrew J. Schiff. The contents of this book outline 3 ways to help you improve your personal financial situation. The book begins with a story about 3 men on a small island: Apple, Baker, and July. Food on the island is very scarce. Fish is the main food source. Every day, they must catch fish with their bare hands, without any tools, so each person can only catch 1 fish to eat. Life on the island is very hard. Besides fishing to fill their stomachs, there are no recreational activities at all. Among the 3, Apple is a man with many dreams. He wants a more fashionable shirt, dreams of having a house to shield him from the sun and rain, and hopes to one day become a film director. One day, while lost in thoughts about his dreams, Apple suddenly comes up with an idea: to create a net for fishing. However, to make this net, Apple has to pay the price of not being able to go fishing the next day and endure hunger, as well as the ridicule from Baker and July. However, those mocking words mean nothing to Apple, as he believes that no matter what others say, his determination remains steadfast. Indeed, when the idea emerged, determination leads to success, and sacrifices are ultimately rewarded. Apple successfully creates the fishing net, allowing him to catch more fish in a shorter amount of time. With the remaining time, Apple can rest and pursue his dreams. The fishing net Apple created is his capital. This story about the net helps us reflect on the relationship between capital and risk, teaching us an economic principle to improve the quality of life. To create capital, one must be brave enough to take risks. To create the fishing net, Apple had to sacrifice a day of fishing and accept the hunger. Moreover, creating the net is not easy. There's a risk of failure. Perhaps out of 100 people trying to make nets, only 3 would succeed. In reality, I can give you an example to make it easier to understand. For instance, if you want to create a website to generate additional passive income, you will need to spend a long time building it, maybe a month, 2 months, or even a year, during which you will have no income. You won't know if you'll succeed in building it. Would you dare to take the risk? But when successful, the outcome can bring you significant value. The first condition is that we must be willing to take risks and then remain steadfast. Now let's return to the previous story. Apple has successfully created the fishing net, and it seems his future is very bright. But what about the other 2? Are we creating a hierarchical system that divides the rich and the poor? The truth is not necessarily so. Apple's invention has brought many benefits to everyone on the island. Let's see what happens next. The next day, Baker and July see that Apple has caught a lot of fish and is happily relaxed all day, so their first thought is to borrow the fishing net. But Apple doesn't really trust them and suggests that they should weave their own fishing nets. However, Baker and July worry that if they can't make it, they will starve. So they negotiate with Apple to borrow a fish so they can have time to make nets while still having something to eat. Once they catch fish, they will return double the amount. This is when financial thinking was born. Baker borrows 1 fish from Apple and promises to return 2. In other words, Apple has used his saved fish as investment capital and has started lending it out. As a result, the residents of the island increasingly create more fishing nets, leading to a more relaxed lifestyle for the islanders. Many start to work harder, saving fish, and even opening companies or schools. Some don't want to open businesses, but still want to invest to catch more fish. Thus, a fish bank emerges. The bank offers interest rates for people to save their unused fish, and then the bank uses that fish to invest. The bank works reliably and invests safely, so the residents feel secure depositing their savings to earn interest and live. However, along with the development of the island's economy, the ability to earn profits increases, and thus people with ill intentions begin to appear. Some set up banks with high profits and high-risk investments. The government has to step in to control market interest rates by printing cash to replace fish. However, conversely, the number of fish decreases and their size shrinks. One day, a person can no longer eat just 1 fish. This is why inflation arises. Simply put, the government prints too much money, but the quantity of fish is limited. The price of each fish increases, and the economy on the island continues to worsen. Externally, it seems increasingly prosperous, but in reality, the value of money in people's pockets is decreasing, leading to rising housing prices and increasing debt, with the risk of riots just around the corner. I initially thought that the people who used to catch fish with their bare hands and lived in hardship would improve their lives, but that's not the case. Through many generations of development, the lives of the people have only fallen into another form of suffering. And that's the end of the story. Now let's see what message this book wants to convey to us. In fact, there are two opposing schools of economic thought: classical economics and Keynesian economics. The classical economic school emphasizes free markets and everything should return to individual needs, while Keynesian economics argues that markets need to be unified and controlled by the government to avoid excessive economic fluctuations. From our ordinary perspective, we can understand it simply like this. The classical school believes that market interest rates for savings should not be controlled. Higher interest rates can motivate people to save more money, leading to more investment and ultimately enhancing the country's production capacity. On the other hand, Keynesian economics argues that savings interest rates must be controlled because if they are too high, people will only want to save money, which doesn't stimulate consumption. Businesses won't invest, and people will become unemployed. The author of this book belongs to the classical school, and one of the purposes of writing this book is to promote the theories of classical economics. The fable about the economy on the small island also serves to oppose Keynesian economics. Thus, some content in this book may be somewhat biased, but please don't misunderstand that I have a prejudice against classical economics. If I were to compare the two schools, I would lean more toward classical economics because its concepts align better with personal financial development, encouraging us to save more and accumulate personal wealth. If there are good investment opportunities in the market, we should continue to invest to generate more wealth. However, if the market is too free, it can also be detrimental. For example, if the market is in a severe recession and businesses have to cut a large number of jobs, shouldn't government intervention be necessary? If savings interest rates are too high, leading to decreased consumer demand, what should businesses do? These issues cannot be resolved overnight. If you feel that these concepts are too distant from you, imagine the following scenario. If you unfortunately fall ill, you have two options. The first is to recover on your own. The recovery results will be very good, but the process will be very difficult. You might have to endure a long period of unemployment without income. The second option is to take medication, but the recovery time will be very long, and the side effects of the medication may leave you feeling unclear and could even have long-term consequences. So if you were in that situation, which option would you choose? Choosing to recover on your own is akin to what this book advocates about classical economics, while choosing medication would lean toward Keynesian economics. Now let's move on to the final and most important part that I want to share with you. What benefits does this book provide us in developing personal finance? I will share 3 things. 1. Wealth accumulation must be based on capital. To have capital, we must delay consumption. Remember Apple in the story? He had to skip a day of eating fish to create the net. This is the delay in consumption. For us, saving money is the most practical method to obtain capital. Once you have capital, you can invest. For instance, during recent pandemic days, you wouldn't have to worry about not having money to live. Additionally, during your free time, you can fully concentrate on starting your business. Broadening the perspective, your work capability is your capital. Your knowledge is your capital. Your ability to increase productivity is your capital. Even earning more income over a fixed period is capital. 2. An individual's consumption capacity depends on production value. In economics, people often analyze the market through the relationship between supply and demand. For us, supply and demand also apply to personal finance. How much value can you provide in your work environment? That is the supply. Demand means how much you can gain from that environment. The difference between supply and demand is the wealth you accumulate. Therefore, If you want to accumulate more wealth, you must enhance your work value. Unfortunately, this value is primarily determined by the market and can change. There may be a skill that is very hot at the moment, but next year it could be replaced by something else. Therefore, if you want to maintain your competitiveness, you must periodically reassess your work value and adjust and upgrade your skills. 3. Pursue your dreams and dare to take risks, but don't overburden yourself. In the story, we see that Apple had to skip a day of eating to create the fishing net, but in reality, it won't be that easy. To pursue your dreams, you may lose many years. If maintaining daily survival during those years becomes difficult, you should reconsider. Overly pursuing dreams can harm you. When faced with difficulties, our brains will start to generate desires for survival. At that moment, if any opportunity arises, you may rush to grasp it, which could lead to a wrong choice that you will regret. To pursue your dreams, you need to be full of enthusiasm, but enthusiasm alone is not enough. You also need a plan, a sound strategy, perseverance, and sacrifice. Remember that on the path to pursuing your dreams, you must carry enough resources. So that's what I wanted to share with you today. To understand economics or anything in life, we need a multifaceted perspective. Not all theories are absolute, and not all theories suit everyone. However, learning about economics will help us better understand what is happening in this world. Because there's a saying, a dollar is a drop of sweat. If you take it seriously, you won't be at a loss. If you found this video helpful, don't hesitate to give it a like, share it with others who need to understand it, and don't forget to subscribe.